Hi everyone and welcome to the playoffs on the Bison Video Blog. Along with Jeff Kolpack, I'm Izzo. We had our bye week to rest up and now we're ready for the Sweet 16 of the FCS Playoffs. After the 8 first-round games, North Dakota State returns to the field on Saturday afternoon in a date with San Diego, the Toreros out of the Pioneer League, who knocked off Cal Poly on Saturday night in stunning fashion. My colleague calls it the greatest upset in FCS playoff history. Are you going that far?
How can it not be?
I'm not going to go that far. It's pretty good.
I need a little more research on this, but it's got to be right up there. And
Yeah.
you talk about the FCS playoffs, and this is really where I think 24 teams is really cool. To me, it gives it that March Madness, gives it that the 65th team in the NCAA tournament or one of those first-round upsets that it comes from nowhere. And I love that fact. I hope they stay with 24. I don't think there's any talk of going back, but this is the very reason why you do this, because there's a Cinderella factor, and who doesn't love a good Cinderella story?
Now, it's not been unknown for us to beat up on the Pioneer League. This is non-scholarship football, which I think every fan will be attracted to. But San Diego has won 10 games in a row. They lost to Cal Poly. That's their only loss they had this season, so they got them back in a rematch. What attracts you to, is it to the non-scholarship thing that will maybe just grab people's attention, say, well, wait a minute, if they don't have scholarships, this team can't be very good.
Well, I think it could be risky if you compare this
Go
team
down
to
that road.
Valparaiso, which was in 2004, the first Division I opponent for NDSU, and we all remember, you weren't here yet,
No,
but
saw the score.
It was like 52-0 or something like that, 52-3, I can't remember. But anyway, I don't think it's going to be like that because San Diego is doing that to these other teams. They have a good defense. They're hanging in there. They're solid up front, and they lead the country in rushing defense.
Granted, now they've done it against teams like Marist and Stetson,
But they've still done it.
Valpo. Granted, you got to play who's on your schedule, and I've said that numerous times over. But it's not like, or Dayton, but it's not obviously to what they did against, what NDSU did against maybe its hardest schedule ever in 2016. Jonah Hodges is their outstanding running back. He went for 171 and 3 scores on the game Saturday night, Jeff, averaging 119 yards a game. Anthony Lawrence is their quarterback. You got to like his completion percentage, going at 68% throughout the regular season for San Diego.
It's a multiple offense, gives some pro looks. It's not the running offense that we thought we were going to see in Cal Poly.
Correct.
And he's got a good receiver. Brian Riley, he's 6'3", he's a nice target. And he disperses it around. Dwelly's his name as a receiver, has the most catches at 65. It's an offense that it distributes the ball pretty well.
Now for the Bison, is this maybe a sigh of relief that they're not facing the triple option and having 7 days to get ready for that and going to face a team that resembles more like them?
I don't think you could ever approach a playoff game as a sigh of relief. Maybe for the coaches it's a little less work and more, you're facing a team that looks more like you in practice. So I would think the no cards in practice won't be so challenging to figure out. San Diego had the best of all worlds on Saturday. They had the bad field conditions, that really, I thought, inhibited the triple option offense more than the San Diego offense. San Diego had that get-back factor. It had the, we are the pioneer, we are carrying the small school, the load for all the small schools. And I just, at some point, all factors were present and accounted for an upset, and that's what happened.
Cal Poly had, I think, the we're going to win this game mindset against a non-scholarship
Came out
school.
flat. They came out flat.
It was 14-0 before they knew it. Now, updates on the injury front. Chris Kleiman says he'll know by the end of day Wednesday if Pierre G. Tucker can play in this football game. If he can't, it means Chris Board, the converted safety, would start at linebacker. We visited with Board last week for the Thanksgiving holiday. He seemed like he's waited his time. He's adjusted now fully to linebacker. He's healthy, and he is a tremendous guy on special teams. I think that's underlooked and undervalued by Bison fans, how good number one is out there on special teams.
Tremendous talent, actually, and he has a tremendous nose on the kickoff coverage. It's really fun to watch. If Bison fans, if you're looking at the kickoff coverage, just watch number one. Don't look at the kick. Don't look at the returner. Just watch number one.
He is,
it's fun to watch the way he can just has that fearless factor when he goes down there. Now he's been around. He was 215 as a safety. Now up to about 227 pounds. He's built himself up. He's, I think, figured out more of the mental side of linebacker. So if Pierre G. Tucker does not go, it's not a big drop-off, I don't think.
What's your gut on Tucker? Does he play or not? I would not play him.
Well, I think he's going to give it a shot. You can't go in there and say, we're going to rest him, and because that's how you get
ready
beat.
for next week, right?
You cannot take that mentality, and that resonates with other players. That would be the wrong message to send. Granted, the Bison will probably win, right?
Yes.
But you still can't take that message.
You look at the other positions, looks like Bruce Anderson is going to be fully healthy, and Chris Kleiman said to get some reps on offense as well. And we remember what Anderson did last year in the postseason. He was a difference maker in 2 games.
You talk about kickoff. How about the kickoff return game?
Yeah.
I think it takes up certainly another notch with Bruce Anderson back there, and really with Perkins back too.
Yep.
I think he is another factor too.
You saw what he did in the postseason as well last year with that big punt return against Richmond. On a whole, 7 of the 8 teams won this past weekend to open up the FCS playoffs. Anything that struck you outside of low attendance, which we've talked about to the cows come home on Thanksgiving, what struck you out of the opening round?
I thought Youngstown looked really good. I thought Youngstown had its offense. That's going to be a great matchup at Jacksonville, and that's one we've been talking about potentially for a couple weeks. I was surprised that Illinois State dropped that game. I thought they just, and that's a way they dropped it is so un-Brock Speck-like, to be that bad in special teams, get a punt block. That's something you don't see a Sound Valley team do very often.
Central Arkansas now goes to Eastern Washington. Richmond won its first-round game, so they'll play North Dakota.
With a new quarterback who played pretty well.
That's right, for the Spiders. I think maybe the game of the weekend, next to that Youngstown-Jacksonville State game, is Wofford and the Citadel. 2 teams that played an overtime game. It's one of the rematches of this weekend. We only have 2, thankfully, in the second round. Citadel won that game in overtime. There might be 8 passing yards combined in that game with 2 teams that love the option and love to run the football. That could be a great game. Potential upset there, too.
Potential upset?
Possibly. I like the Citadel's team,
it's
but Wofford could go in there, and they only lost by 3 the first time they played.
Wofford's had a competitive schedule, too.
James Madison in New Hampshire is the other rematch. New Hampshire put up 60-some-odd points against Lehigh. I'm not sure what we take out of that going into now a rivalry game with JMU.
They've done this, so New Hampshire all year. I don't know if they're on the upswing. I didn't see that game. But JMU has a new quarterback, too.
The other game that people are talking about is Chattanooga at Sam Houston State. And I know Central Arkansas is part of the last 16, but I think this might be the sternest test for Sam Houston so far
this
on their
season.
schedule.
Well, it doesn't take much so far this
true.
season. I was surprised Chattanooga put up that many points on Weber.
They did.
I thought Weber came in with a pretty veteran team. And speaking of that, it had been the worst ever weekend for the Big Sky in its tournament history.
Well, obviously what happened with Weber, and then with Cal Poly losing to a non-scholarship team, that's nothing to write home about.
Weber wasn't even in the game.
Right, that game was over early on. So now they have UND and Eastern Washington left in the Big Sky field. Busy week of coverage. We'll get to know the Toreros, the bullfighters out of San Diego, as they'll be here later in the week. Full week of coverage on Inforum.com, WDAY.com, and of course on 970 WDAY with Kolpack and Izzo live at the Dome on Saturday morning. Get you ready for the second round of the FCS Playoffs. We'll see you guys this weekend.